Tell us an appropriate joke.
I can't
for Ed.
tell a joke to Jane because Greg's the master joke teller, and it'd just be a bad thing. It'd fall flat, and she'd be like, "Who's this dickhead I've agreed to go on a podcast with?" That's what'll happen. So I'm just not going to tell a joke.
Oh, dear.
All right, let's roll.
Let's roll. Bringing us in, big boy.
Okay, fair enough.
What do you get when a legless lad and a blind bloke walk into a bar? A couple of mates on a mission to challenge what it means to be tough.
All right, we're laughing already, but welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tough, podcast on a mission to redefine what it means to be tough. Proudly brought to you by Ski for Life, an incredible South Australian charity dedicated to promoting mental health, wellbeing and suicide prevention. Legless, how are you, my brother?
I am very, very good, thanks, brother. I'm really excited. This is Talkin Tough with one of the best people I've ever met in the world, and I can't wait for the audience to get a glimpse of everything that is Jane Kellock. Can't wait for today's. It's called Talkin Tough, but as well as being tough, one of the most kindest, big-hearted, empathetic people you'd ever meet. So it's going to be a ripping episode.
Tell you what, you've given her a rap. You might as well welcome her to the mic, Jane.
Hey, just before you do, are you able just to slide me that note full of cash that you said you
Exactly.
give you
I was
a rap
like, you've had a
beforehand,
very
Jane?
sheltered life, mate.
Welcome, Jane Kellock.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great. I love seeing your faces. You know that, both of you.
I
so
love
it's
seeing
great.
yours too, mate.
It's great. Oh, yeah, it's already started.
Yeah, rub it in.
Rub it in.
Oh,
no, it is
dear.
great. It's great to see you, and it's a real honour to be here.
And Jane, have you
Thank
listened
for
to all the
inviting me.
podcast episodes so far? Fair few of them.
Absolutely.
Yep,
All of
absolutely.
them.
And no doubt, you know the structure.
Yep.
We know you. We've stayed with you. You've been a big part of our tours. You know just about everybody within your community, and you make things happen pretty regularly. So we're given a bit of an armchair ride when we head over towards your part of the world from Victoria, and have a lot of fun in the process. Benny and I always like to start our podcasts. It's about redefining what tough means. We would love to hear from you before we get into your story, your family story, your personal story. What did tough mean to you growing up, Jane Kellock?
Well, tough for me growing up, I had a dad who was a shearer, and he was the toughest man. And I think he still is tough, and it wasn't just tough in himself, but mentally tough. He was amazingly mentally tough, and so was my mum. So that's how I always felt tough was being strong and upstanding and being really, I'm trying to think of the words, but being really when somebody's needed, they were the people that people went to.
Okay.
So to me, that was like, I always felt that they were really tough.
So rather than just like the staunch, don't let it bother you, move on,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, there sounds like there was a lot of, compassion and care for their community and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, look, I come from a little town called Carrollton. There's only about 70 people live there, maybe not even that many. And everybody helped everybody, and that was the community that I was brought up in. And my mum and dad were very strong in that. They were great community people, still are great community people. And so that sort of guided my life really with how I would be seen within the community as well, I think, and what I would do for my community. No matter what that community is, it's not just where you live, like you've got lots of communities everywhere that you go.
Yeah, leaning on each other to get through
Yeah.
the tough stuff, and especially small country town. Like there's, we'll get into the whole life on the land and the stuff that comes along with that, and some of the tough stuff. But there would have been that from your mum and dad's point of view growing up as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think some of the things that mum and dad had to go through the era that they were at, and dad was away most of the time, so shearing. And so mum brought up 4 kids virtually on her own, other than weekends when dad Dad was home then.
And so shearing was his full-time job. So he'd go.
Yeah, so we had a station.
You had a station
as well.
Yeah, and he'd also go out to other stations and shear.
Yeah, and
your mum's at back raising the kids, and like you said, to give people an idea that aren't familiar with Carrollton, we did one tour in the upper north where we were on our way up to Craddock, and you blink and you miss the place.
Yeah, that's right.
We saw Carrollton, and then went up to Craddock, but
I missed it.
It's
Ben
and I
definitely
looked
missed
hard.
it.
I looked hard.
I did tell him. No, we had a.
I missed most places
We
to drive
stopped at the
through.
sign and everything like that,
Yeah.
but it is a very, very small town
Yeah, it
and
is.
very, very dry up there. So
Yeah.
tough living, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming, making an assumption here, but shearing, being a city boy, tell us how hard it would have been to shear back then, as opposed to maybe these days. I know it's still hard.
It's still really hard
Back-breaking
work.
stuff, right?
Yeah, really hard work. But yeah, Dad travelled all over Australia.
Yep.
Shearing, virtually to save the station to start with, and it was, he had a purpose, and it was going to happen. So yeah, his mental toughness has always been something that's really stood out to me. He's been amazing.
Yep.
And you say save the station, Jane. Is that, like, I know I've heard a number of different stories where people that own property, when it was on the brink, when it did need saving, would obviously go in search of extra income, whether it be breaking in horses, whether it be mustering, whether it be
that's
droving,
right.
whether it be shearing. And, like, was that the case for, like, ideal scenario, your old man doesn't have to go shearing because the station's doing well. Was that the case for your mum and dad growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. And Mum was a city girl. She come from Port Adelaide, so and met Dad when he was shearing on a station that she went up, and she was the governess up there. So and that's how they met. But yeah, it was tough. It was just tough times. There's always drought, and I remember the year we got married, I think interest rates were like 12, 13, whatever percent, 20%. I can't remember now, but, they were really tough times. And so Mum and Dad started a contracting business. So Dad was shearing, then he started a contracting business. And at the height of that, they had 3 shearing contract teams all over Australia happening. So, it was really successful then. But like Dad said, you just got to do what you got to do.
Yep. And Jane, born in Carrollton, and obviously you're still living out on the land and a farming family. Tell us about your family sort of structure, how it all came together, and obviously
growing up, how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah.
So
how'd you end up there?
At the age of 11, I went to boarding school.
Yep.
As you do when you're on a station, and did my time there, and then started working away. So I haven't lived at home since I was 11.
Wow.
I spent probably 10 months there. I worked at the Carrollton School for a little while, and then I started working away. And then one weekend I went to the Hawker Worm Burners B&S Ball, and I met this young lad from Farrell Flat.
Tell us about this young lad from Farrell Flat.
Hang on, run us past that again. The Hawker Worm Burners
B&S Ball, Bachelor and Spinster Ball.
Bachelor and Spinster Ball. And how old were you?
I was 23. I think.
23. So how far would they come in from? Would they all these dirty, rotten bachelors that are coming from hundreds of kilometres away? Or are we talking?
The Worm Burners probably wasn't a huge one. There was the one at Burroughs, the Jailbreakers. They would come from all over the place.
Right. How many people would have been at the ball that you were at here? The Worm
I reckon
Burners?
400 or 500 maybe.
400 or 500. I was thinking 4 or 5. Slim pickings. Like, are you going to?
No, 400 or 500.
You got? Is it the bloke over there, or is it the bloke over there? And just like, oh God,
I'll take him.
give your girlfriend a wink, and you go, all right, I'll take one for the team, and then end up with Greg. No, I'm only joking.
Anyway, met this young lad from Farrell Flat
Yep.
called Greg Kellock, and sort of a bit over 12 months after that, we were married. So.
Amazing.
Hang on, there's more to that night and that story. Surely. It's not just meet him and 12 months later we're married. Like, run us through blow by blow.
I don't think we need to do that on the podcast.
Nah, we also know Greg very, very well. He's an absolute champion of a man. And when you were talking about, your dad and the way that he was, it was almost, from my perspective, and, it was like you were describing Greg. So
Yeah,
in
there
terms
are
of
a lot of similarities between
yeah.
them.
He's quite quite a character and a
Yeah.
great sense of humour.
Yeah, he
and
has,
a no
yeah.
nonsense sort of approach to life.
Yeah.
That's what we love about him. But you're married after 12 months.
Yeah.
And then you're probably obviously thinking about starting a family. How does it go from there?
You know, that thought process had started before we got so Sam was born in the October, and it never stopped from there. There was a fairly major breeding program that went on for quite a while. So got 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls.
Yep.
So very, very lucky.
Yeah, fantastic. And tell us about the family setup now. So they're all living. Where are they living? What are you guys? What's the involvement?
Yeah,
What's the
so
setup?
Sam and his wife Emma are living on farm now. So they've moved into Greg's parents' house, and Matthew has bought. There was a house on the corner of the farm that we sold to a guy that used to work for us, and it's got a bit of land and stuff. So Matthew's bought that back with he and his partner Brittany, which is wonderful. Ellie is in Adelaide currently at the minute, but has been in Darwin and Townsville and wherever else.
All over the shop.
She's all over the shop. She's her life is about playing football, and that's just wonderful that she's had the opportunities that she's had with that.
Yep.
And then Annie, who spent quite a bit of time in the big town of Tibooburra in
The booming metropolis
The
in
booming
the
metropolis.
northwest corner of New South Wales.
Yeah, and hosted you two there for a week or so. Look,
Wasn't that an experience, Ben? Tibooburra, staying with Annie. I think I ate 4 kilos of flies that weekend. It was
was
like
the
nowhere I'd ever
and that
been
was in
before.
between the
and
red
I'm
dust.
I'm a city boy too, and I'm like, and we're getting further and further in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, I've started to feel a little bit nauseous. I'm going, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink?
And that was the first time we ever got the city boy out of the city.
Yeah,
he
it was
he
great.
goes a bit better now out in the red dirt, but
Annie made our trip wonderful because she has this incredible, bit like yourself and all your kids for that matter, great sense of humour, had an ability to make you laugh, just a no nonsense, really great family orientated person too. So she was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, she was out in the middle of nowhere then, but she's home now. She's been working at the Borough School, so doing that full time as well as full time uni, and she's nearly finished her teaching degree.
Unreal.
So which is fantastic. Yeah.
beautiful, absolutely. And mate, that's the family. Talk us through the business, life on the land, and probably without going sort of too. You don't have to give us exact numbers of head and stock and all that sort of thing, but you're sheep and cropping.
Yeah,
Mid-north?
we're sheep and cropping, so we're based at Farrell Flat, about 30 k's south of Borough. It's from where I come from in the Flinders. We always classed it as the land of milk and honey, but everywhere you go, I think on the land there are always ups and downs, no matter where you are. So we're very much merino sheep and wheat, barley. And legumes cropping. We have an amazing, lifestyle, and we've been so lucky with what we have been able to have been given and built up by Greg's parents, and we're very grateful for what they've given us. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think that gives us sort of a good picture, but we've had the pleasure of being out at your place a number of times, spoken throughout the mid-north on one of the first Ski for Life Mates on a Mission programs. But not only that, we're up there again last year, and I mean, we know that last year wasn't a great year, but you've been in Farrell Flat now for quite a number of years. And I think farming is one of those things, we were only talking about it before we jump behind the mics, that is so unique from a mental health perspective that you can't switch off. Or for a lot of people, it's a much harder thing to switch off from, because for most professions, you go to work and you get to leave most of work at work and then you come home. But farming, life on the land, work is home, home is work. You're looking out the kitchen window, and if the weather isn't going your way, if you've had a shit day, if there's sheep in the paddock that are looking skinny and are struggling, you're looking at that out your kitchen window at night. It's the first thing you see. It's the last thing you see. Like, run us through maybe some of the tougher moments of life on the land, and that might be now, it might be from times ago. Like, what sort of comes to mind when we say shit hits the fan for everyone in life? But tell us about maybe a couple of times that it has for you.
Yeah, and I'd say currently it's pretty shit.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough.
Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah, and it's tough right throughout South Australia. There's no doubt about that, and parts of Victoria, and we're not on our own, and yeah, it is tough, and there have been tough times before, and you get through them, that, but it's at the minute, it's the times of the dust blowing all over your clothes every time you hang clothes out, and it's you can't see out the windows for the dust that is stuck on your windows, and I don't know, it's been a very long period. This period, last year was I think probably the worst cropping year. Certainly, Greg and I were married for 34 years on Sunday, and it's certainly in that 34 years, it's the worst year financially that we've ever been through, and it really starts to wear thin. And I think it's definitely harder on the men than it is on me. Not that I'm comparing, but Greg's out there every day feeding sheep in the dust and the wind, and there's straw and whatever, and you're seeing your stock go backwards no matter how much you feed them, and that sort of stuff. It starts to wear thin. Yeah.
How much of a role does something like optimism play for a farmer, and how do you maintain a level of optimism knowing that you are beholden to the elements? And I remember a story when we were coming up there when Greg mentioned you might be able to explain exactly what the lay of the land is like in Farrell Flat, where every single valley that you go over away from the coast is less and less rainfall.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about optimism and how do you actually maintain that?
Yeah, so where we are at Farrell Flat, we're not far from Goyder's Line. So as you go east from us, Goyder's Line is there. So he was a very clever man. He drew a boundary, but it's quite obvious where that line is too when you start to look at it. Optimism, I think there's a couple of things there, Mike. So I think, yes, you do have to have optimism, and you have to, my dad always says we're another day closer to the next rain. There's no doubt about that. And you could say we're also another day further away from the last bugger.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? So it's how you
look at it.
How you look at it. I think there's a couple of things. I think optimism, mindset, and being in control of your business, understanding where your business is at, is really a key critical part of how you get through those really tough times. And I can't sort of stress that enough, because those so the other part of it for me is family and community, and friends. Like, if you don't have that support network in place as well, it's pretty tough doing it on your own. And we often see producers who are on their own. They don't have that networking, they don't have that community, or they don't have that family to support them. It is a tough gig. It is a really tough gig.
Yeah, and you mentioned before that you're not the only ones that are doing it tough. So you're obviously very well connected. You speak to other people, you share war stories, and when things are a little bit slim as they are now, or very slim. Does that provide you with a level of comfort, or, because we always talk a lot about, we spoke about in a number of podcasts around comparing, but in some cases that comparison, not so much comparison, but knowing that you are not alone in that battle is
absolutely
is a positive thing?
Yeah, it is a really positive thing. And for me, having really good communication and being able to talk about things, and it's as simple as, I guess, Greg plays night owl bowls on a Wednesday night. Now, it is one of the best things for him because he's there with other farmers and they play against other towns and they get together, they can talk, they can say, well, and Greg goes, oh, well, we're not the only ones that are going through this, because he's talking to other people that are in the same situation. So that getting off farm, having those conversations with other people is just, it's so critical. It really is. I just think the most powerful thing. And, things like little bowling clubs that bring people together like that it's just so essential.
So many, I suppose, sporting clubs, bowling clubs, book clubs, whatever the association, whatever the point of connection is, like you say, is so powerful, and especially in what can be either an isolating job, business, community lifestyle. I think having those excuses and reasons, not just once in a blue moon for somebody's wedding or funeral or whatever it happens to be, but having that regular, consistent contact with other people outside of work and getting off farm, like you say, is so powerful. But I'd love to, I suppose, go into understanding, does it ever work the other way, where like Australia is such a big country, where I know even last year there was places that we went to where you've got to catch up. We were speaking at it, and similar, it was a little bit further, South Australia had been affected by the similar sort of lack of rain, and there was some rain that come through, but you've got them blokes then catching up going, how much rain do you get? How much rain do you get? It's the natural question to ask. You're all in the same boat, but then you've got, oh, we got 17 mil, oh, we got nothing. And has there ever been the case where then there's that envious nature, jealousy, or going, oh, we could have done with that?
Oh, I think you can do that, Ben. There's no doubt you can do that very easily, and it's almost the way farmers go. Well, how come he got 20 mil and we got nothing?
Yeah, he's a wanker.
You know what?
I'm
not saying that. I'm not saying that at all.
He's got a better routine in his rain
You might
dance.
have been knocked off by him at the local bowling club at the night hours on a Wednesday, and then he gets more rain than you. It's going to have to grind on your gears.
How
a bit,
rude.
right?
but it's like, and for me, again, that's mindset.
Yeah.
So yes, you can wallow in it and you can be really sad or disappointed or whatever you want to call it. On the other side of it, you can be like, how lucky are they?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and build each other up, celebrate it.
So
Because you know that
got
your
it this
turn's...
time, we'll get it next time.
Yeah, your turn will come.
Yeah, it will
Benny
come.
said before, was very well said. Your property, it's been there forever, and you look out the window and you see everything. Right, it's a constant reminder.
So
You're
our
not going
kids
to
are
escape
sixth generation.
Sixth generation, it's quite incredible. I want to know, like you said before, tell us a little bit about your outlet. So Greg might have the bowls. You might have sent him away, for a few days to get out of the whole, whirlpool that he was sort of stuck in. But your whole family, what is their go-to thing that gets them away from being stuck in those tough times like you're in right now?
Yeah, and I think it's important for the three of us to remember, like, Legless, you being a big farmer now, now that you've sort of experienced Tibooburra and been out in the bush, and me knowing a little bit myself as well, there's a shitload of people that listen to Talkin Tough that may have no idea and have never been to a farm before. Like even Jane, before you, when you were talking about feeding sheep, that's not a normal thing for a farmer, right? Like you don't want to be feeding sheep every day. So even
you'd
just
like them to be eating the grass.
Yeah, correct. You want the sheep to be able to feed themselves, and there might be someone listening going, oh, yeah, well, don't most farmers feed their sheep? No, they don't, ideally.
Well, yeah, we try, ideally, they'd be eating the pasture that we've grown with the rain, that we there's one ingredient missing.
Yeah, so feeding sheep is a huge cost. And
it is.
I think I just wanted to chuck that side note in there it's important for us to explain to people before we get to the outlets.
Cost. Like there is a cost associated with it.
Yeah.
And there is a cost to the people doing it.
Yep.
And when it's tough, it's the cost of mental fatigue, really. Yeah.
Because they're not just animals. I think this is something that's definitely struck me when you meet farmers. Your automatic thought, or not automatic thought, sometimes the presumption and I think it is a misconception, is, oh, these farmers, they're so tough, animals, stock, they're probably just a number, and like you win some, you lose some. If a couple die off, like no big deal. But the care that farmers have for their animals when they do see them suffering, struggling, losing condition, like it hurts like one of their own.
Absolutely.
I think that's
It
something that's amazed me, the impact on that.
What people also forget, it's our livelihood. So if they're not at their best and they're not showing their genetic outcome by not having enough nutrition, then we're not getting paid for our product either. So, it is in our best interest. But there's care. Nobody wants to see an animal struggling and suffering. Like, it's the last thing we want to see. So, so you've got to find a way to do it.
And when you are going through that shit, as Mike was just saying, like, what are the outlets for? You've talked about Greg's, but you, the kids. Yeah,
so I'm really strong on this. That especially the kids when they're on farm, especially it's really important that they be around like-minded, positive people. Like, I think that's a really important thing. Being involved in footy clubs, sporting clubs, all our kids play sport. They're all involved in the governance of the club and that sort of stuff. So whether it be footy club or whatever, it's just a really powerful thing to have that community around you. Another thing as a family we do, of course, is go water skiing. We love the river, and I think the aspect of what water gives you, just the calmness. But you can be quite stressed, I think, and you can go to the river and go water skiing, and it just sort of dissipates, and you always come back seeing things differently. I think that's really great. The other thing for me is we, as a family, try to get together at least once a week if we can. Always, especially for birthdays and that sort of thing. But yeah, we're pretty lucky that our kids. Well, they tell me they still want to spend time with us. So
got to be doing something right. And
it's a pretty special family. I mean, we've gate crashed a couple of those special occasions. I think out of the last 3 or 4 years, we've been there for 2 Mother's Day lunches, a birthday lunch, a Father's Day dinner. So we've definitely felt
and
the
you're
love.
always welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're like the kids you never had, Jane.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
couple of blow-ins. It's always.
And there's nothing better than sit down, especially with the kids and their partners. It's it's pretty special.
And talking about not just yourselves but other people, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing from a mental health perspective and how it's having an impact on people across South Australia and around where you live.
Yeah, well, because it's been dry for a while and it's been a tough season. People are struggling. There's no doubt about that. Really important, I think, that I probably get a bit upset with the whole impression of farmers that they wallow, but it's like when it's tough, and I don't think we ask for much, and it's been a long battle for me to get more mental health services into rural and regional areas. It's the reason why, I started to be involved with Ski for Life right from the very beginning. And I just, and I think especially within men that and especially farming men, again, they see what they do is who they are, and that's a really tough thing because it's not who they are, it's what they do. And so when you have a failure as a farmer, you feel like it's a total that you're failing, and that's actually not the case. But I see that often. Do
you think that's the same in other industries, or do you think farming is unique in that sense?
I think it's probably more unique in that sense, Ben. I'm sure it happens in other industries as
yeah.
well. We are so reliant on the weather, biggest risk takers in the world, really, when you think about what we do. And, so I often see it. I often see it in agriculture. And, look, that's at my area of strength. That's where I do, my outside work and stuff as well. So on governance boards and stuff. So, I see quite a bit of it.
Me and Benny last night were at one of the football clubs, Williston, in South Australia, over here for a couple of days. And at the community session, the federal member for Labor was there, one of them. And he asked the question, and I'd love to get your perspective, and you're probably better asking someone like yourself. Whereas what do you think that people need, and how can the federal government help reach these farmers and have a significant impact, a positive impact on their mental health?
I think farmers need to be listened to. I really think that they don't feel as though they're listened to or probably respected anymore. Like, used to be one of the most amazing industries to be in, because people always loved farmers because they were providing food for everybody to eat. I think we've really lost that connection between the city and the country.
Yep.
And it feels like nobody's listening. And so I think if farmers could feel like they were being listened to and respected, I think that would be would go a long way. Yeah, because I really feel as though a lot of people don't feel as though they're being heard.
Is that does media play a role? Is there a whole heap of? I'm sure there's a whole heap of moving parts to that. But
there's
like
no,
that
I think
disconnect
there's no
between
doubt
city and
about
country.
That. Yeah, that disconnect between city and country. We always had our city cousins come and stay with us, always, and they would spend some time on the farm and learn how things happen. That's not how things happen so much anymore. There is a real disconnect, and things are portrayed in the media a lot of the time, and with organisations like PETA and so forth, that we are just almost evil human beings. And
how does that make you feel?
Awful.
Yeah.
Like, that's the last thing that I want to, I'm a very open and, I provide our whole goal, our core focus for our business is that we provide ethically produced food and fibre for the world. And we see it as a food source. It is, we are providing everyone with beautiful lamb. We're providing
Can attest to that.
Yeah.
Can vouch for beautiful lamb.
But you know what I mean?
So Jane, tell us.
It really frustrates me.
Yeah, it frustrates you. So tell us about, like, what do you do? So what's the action point between, when you've got politicians and people that live in the city that don't really have an understanding about what you go through on a daily basis? What do you actually do? What's the action point? So how do you actually get them to understand what you're doing, and that you're not this, this person that is doing the wrong thing, or you feel, they're those sorts of things. What's the action that you take?
So I think there's two things. I think there's extremes in everything.
Yep.
And the PETA of the world, I think, are extreme in their opinions about what happens within the sheep industry, the cattle industry, whatever industry. So there will always be those extremes. So I'll just put that to the side. And there's extremes within the farming industry too, that, perhaps some people don't do things as well as perhaps they should. But most of us are here in the middle.
Sure.
And we should not be made feel as though we are evil human beings for producing a beautiful product to feed people. Like, that's the part that I find really demoralising and frustrating, because we do everything in our power for that not to be the case.
And like you say, I think it comes down also just to a lack of education and awareness, and there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of preconceived ideas, and it's sort of misguided information, or like you say, it's catching on to and promoting an extreme through whether it be a video that goes viral on social media, and all of a sudden that's what all farmers do, and the same can be said across so many different industries where there's an extreme, whether it be something that reflects quite negatively, but the impact that then has on people's generalizations and assumptions about everyone within that industry isn't always right, but the impact that it has can hurt.
Yeah, and I think so if I was talking to government, it's got to be around, let's not make knee-jerk decisions over reactions of things that are of an extreme, when the majority are doing the right thing. Do you know what I mean? So I think, and we just see that knee-jerk reaction stuff because it's emotive a lot of the time. These things that have been put out are really emotive. So it's, But, that farmers have got a lot coming at them.
Absolutely,
There's
weather.
Animal ethics, there's weather, there's climate change, there's prices, there's commodities, there's, what's happening in the world at the minute with the Trump factor.
Is there a feeling of powerlessness
Yep.
as a farmer these days more than ever before, or that's always a constant?
Yeah, no, I think there is, and I think things keep getting thrown at us. So again, that's, you can bury your head in the sand and wait for it to be forced on you, or you can be proactive in that space and take control of your business to deal with it.
100%. On that, we're probably we've been thinking big picture. We're thinking about what's not there, what's missing, and obviously all this then stems back to what we're talking about with some of the impacts that then farmers and families are feeling and communities are feeling from a mental health point of view as well. Like the what you go to bed at night with you take a long time to sort of process and understand, and is whirring around in your head, and then you wake up the next day and it's right there in front of you again. Is there stuff out there that is working? Because I think as much as we can focus on the stuff that's missing, I think it's also important for us to identify that there's some pretty cool stuff out there and that has been implemented that I think is making some progress. We're far from perfect. The statistics tell us that. But when you compare sort of the awareness around mental health in rural areas, and especially farmers, farming communities, farming families, compared to 20, 30 years ago, like suicides on farm 20, 30 years ago were put down to a farming accident.
Yep.
Right? There was no promotion about it. There was shame around it. There was don't talk about it. How's that changed? What is working? Have you seen some stuff that is helping blokes and farmers out there?
Yeah, Ben, that's a great question. And I guess for me, even from the time we started Ski for Life to now, you didn't talk about suicide 13 years ago. Like, it wasn't discussed.
Which isn't that long ago. Like
It's not that long ago.
No, in the big scheme of things, it is not that long ago.
And even having mental resilience, having, mental health, all of that, those discussions. When I think about how my dad would speak to this, to how my husband would speak about it, to how my sons now speak about it, are completely different.
Yeah.
Like, it's a completely different world. But what I will say, when we go on Ski for Life, my dad is there, my husband is there, and most often both the boys are there as well. And so I think the fact that we can now talk about this stuff more openly, and it's okay to go and listen to Ben and Mike talk, because you're talking about having, mental resilience, or you go and hear Mary O'Brien speak, it's okay to do that. Now, 10 or 13 years ago, there is no way in hell people would have done that. There is no way. And it was such a shameful thing to have an issue with mental health.
Yeah, it was a
It
sign,
was
sign of
terrible.
weakness.
Yes.
Do you
shocking.
think? Let me just ask you a question about that though. You mentioned getting involved in Ski for Life has really shined a light on a topic that probably you haven't had a lot to do with, in particular your dad, as you said. But people that aren't involved in the Ski for Life community and have heard about Ski for Life, where does it sit with them still? Is there still a hell of a lot of stigma that's associated with it? And maybe because you're exposed to it, tell us a little bit about other people that may not have that same insight.
Well, probably what you don't know about my dad is he had a brother that had huge mental health issues, and he was a schizophrenic, and he lived with us with my 4 siblings and mum and dad. So when Dad would go away shearing, he would be there with Mum, and so we have been brought up with mental health issues all of our life. So it was something actually quite normal for me. But I also saw that nobody ever spoke to Robbie about it. Do you know what I mean? It was
Like
never
it was a
spoken
taboo,
about.
taboo
It was a
topic,
taboo-
eggshells around it.
Yeah, Bert's going to hospital. It wasn't anything to do with the fact that he was going into a psych ward. It was the fact that he was just going to hospital. So those changes have been, I think, huge, Mike. And I don't think it's just within Ski for Life. I think it's within society now.
Yeah.
I think you see the conversations happening much more. Where I was on a plane going to Sydney the other day, and there was a guy there, and he had a shirt supporting mental health in mining.
Yep.
And I thought, now, when would you have ever seen that? That, and it really stuck out to me. And I thought, well, that's fantastic. 10, 13 years ago, that would not have happened.
No. Bloody oath. And I think it's brought so many people out from under the shadows that have all, as you said with your uncle, right? I think so many people had so much shit in the closet around their connection to mental health or knowing someone who took their life, but there was so much shame and stigma around it that this exposure and connection to, whether it be Ski for Life, whether it be something completely random, just more people talking about it, making it normal, has brought so many more experiences, stories, shed light and help people sort of grieve and process, whether it be what they've been through or talk about what they're going through, not bottle things up when they do go through things. I'd love to dive into, because I think there's going to be, again, plenty of people listening that don't know you and your connection to Ski for Life. And we've talked a little bit about Ski for Life in previous episodes and other people's experiences and connections to the event. But you, along with Waddy, who was on episode number 4 of Talkin Tough, have had some pretty heavy involvement right from the get-go. And I'd love to hear, because it is so powerful, sort of your version and an experience of how Ski for Life started and your involvement, why you got involved, and sort of how it has grown to where it is today.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
It absolutely has been.
It's been a
And
ride.
it's going to continue to be a ride.
Yeah, exactly. So Bill Stockman had been in hospital and hadn't been in a real good place. And he rang Greg and I when he got out of hospital, and he said, I've had this idea to raise money to get more mental health services for men in rural areas. And Greg said, yeah, righto, mate. What? He said, I want to ski 500 Ks in 5 days. And Greg just said, you're bloody nuts. Can't be done. And Bill said, no. Well, he said, if you can help me, that'd be great. He said, because I thought, well, who would make this happen? It'd be you and Jane. And who loves water skiing? Well, you and Jane and the kids love water skiing. So you're the first ones I've come to. So Greg got off the phone and I said, who's that? And he goes, he said, bloody Bill Stockman. He's got this brainwave. And then we started talking about it. And I said, actually, I reckon we can make this happen. Let's see if we can. I said, I think we know enough people up the river where we can camp along the river or whatever. Like, it's what's it going to be? A couple of boats or one boat or whatever, and do this crusade up the river, and then that'll be done. And that was, I don't know how many years ago is that, Ben? 12, 13
13 years ago, something like that.
And so that first year, we had 2 boats and 20 people, and Bill had done a lot of media on the radio, and everywhere we stopped along the river, there was people. They were coming up to us and they wanted us to help with their daughter, their son, their husband, their wife, their whoever it was, who was really struggling. They'd tried to commit suicide, and was there something that we could do to help them, and all of this sort of stuff. And, of course, all these buggers are skiing on the river, and I'm the one bringing the car and on the ground there, and I was not equipped to be dealing with these conversations at all. Like, that was not my expectation, that I would be dealing with these conversations. And I tell you, it nearly broke my heart, and it nearly broke me by the end of the trip. But one thing we did decide, if we ever do this again, we will make sure we have professionals with us along the way, because that was a real burden for me to deal with, and I certainly was not equipped. And we hadn't even thought about it, was all of these things that we hadn't thought about. We had fantastic community support all up the river. It was incredible. And so Greg and I and our 4 kids and Bill and his partner and their kids came along. We were in the ski boat, and Bill's kids didn't know how to ski, so we taught them to water ski along the way, like they'd been, wakeboarding and kneeboarding and stuff. But, yeah, we taught them to ski along the way, and it was pretty amazing. And, of course, Waddy and the tribe were in the other boat, and, it was a pretty amazing journey. And then after that event, we all got, the families that had gone on the event all got together and decided, right, we needed to have a bit more strategy around eating sausages at every stop. And
better catering was required.
How we could be more strategic about how we were going to do that, and see if we could bring some more boats in. And, in our wildest dreams, what he says, he always dreamt that it would be as big as it is. But for me, in my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined, one, that we would raise the money that we raise, and 2 was the impact that each and every person that goes on that Ski for Life, that they take home to their community. And I suppose that's one of the things, Ben, that I think is working really well, is that each person that leaves has more awareness around mental health and suicide prevention that they take back to their community, and that ripple effect goes out from there. There are so many people now that I know, my kids and my family, they can recognise somebody who's struggling and they'll do something to help them.
Yeah.
That's what's working extremely
really powerful.
well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely, like you say, change happening within communities because of that ripple effect. And not only that, I think that's obviously a hugely powerful thing that comes out of it, but it's also, as you said, and why you go to the river in the first place. It's a great outlet.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's so many different reasons, and it's so cool to see that some people come to Ski for Life and are really passionate about raising funds to get more programs and grants out there. Then there's other people that participate in Ski for Life because they just need a weekend. And it's an excuse for them, and it's a reason for them to come together with their mates. And then there's people that off the back of that end up, like you say, with your kids, with so many other people, being able to take it back to communities. We were only having a chat yesterday. We had lunch with another mate of ours who's only been involved for 2 years now, Nadina from another team, Team Thomas, and she was saying similar thing because they've really dedicated to their team to the fundraising and whatnot right throughout their community, football clubs, whatever. Every time they rock up somewhere, someone else is going, so how'd you go at Ski for Life and tell us about it and this, that and the other. But then off the back of that, they're finding comes a deeper conversation than they would normally have at the footy club with that person, because they're asking about something that has that reason behind it, which I think is, as we said earlier, the exposure to it, there is definitely some things happening. Ski for Life's only one tiny little one in comparison to all of the amazing initiatives right around the country and the world that is starting to shift this needle.
So I think, back in those first few years, I think the second year we had 5 boats, the next year we had 8, and so it grew. And I was chairperson of the committee that was organising that, and did that for 10 years, which was fantastic. We were able to get charity status. There was a lot of stuff that went on, as you know, Ben, behind the scenes of and I absolutely could not be prouder of the event. There's no doubt about that, and we've seen that real impact that has happened with people right throughout Australia. And I think it's that sense of community. You come together as a community of people, and you've got a common goal, and which is also fantastic. It's quite amazing, and I could not be prouder of the people who are organising the event now, and Mark who's chairing it, and what they are achieving. It's fantastic. And
I think the incidental metaphor that Ski for Life is, like you said, like skiing 456 Ks as a team is no walk in the park.
No, it's not.
It's no mean feat, and it takes supporting one another. It takes lifting each other up. It takes getting around one another, and a complete team effort from road crew to driver to observer to people getting fuel to the people skiing out the back.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a story about your kids? Because I absolutely love this story about when one of them in particular had a goal to ski a certain distance.
Yeah, so Annie, our youngest, wanted to get to 100 Ks, and on the last morning I think she was at about 83 or something, and she jumped in the water and she was going to ski and have that done by, morning smoko or whatever. Well, she could not get her butt out of the water. So Sam and Ellie got either side of her.
So brother and sister.
Brother and sister got on the either side of her. They put her on double skis, and they were on their single skis, and they had hold of her life jacket, wetsuit, whatever. They ripped her butt out of the water, and so she got up on her doubles. And then she kicked her ski off, and Sam and Ellie carried it the rest of the way.
Wow.
So that she could get her goal.
100 Ks.
Yep. Well, not for the 100 Ks, but so that she could get to her 100 Ks. So I don't know. They did it for 25 Ks or something.
That does not surprise me at all that's happened with your kids. They're all so close-knit.
Yeah, but and like a lot of people have skied the full way, and like kudos to them. I think that's wonderful. But our motto is, if there is somebody that needs to come on Ski for Life, then that's more important, that they are there and they are with us, and we teach them to ski, or we rip them out of the water, whatever we have to do to get them up. And to give them that sense of achievement is more important to us as a family than it is to have somebody having skied the full way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Love it.
I think that's just I love that story. I love hearing that story. I had the hair stand up on the back of my neck with you telling it then, and I knew what was going to happen. I'd heard it before, and it still gets me because I think it's such a...
It's what we need to do.
Yeah, 100%. It's what we've got to do for our mates, our family, our neighbours, our strangers
absolutely.
in the community.
Yeah.
Like, and yes, we're talking a physical goal that Annie had there, but at that point in time, and I've spoken to her about that, she was at the point of giving up. She's like, I want to get back in the boat. I want to take this ski off. I'm done. I'm not getting my 100 Ks.
Yeah.
And there's so many people in life that are at that point, from a life point of view, going, I'm done. I want to give up, but it takes people that are willing to jump in the water and go, no, you're getting through this, and we are going to be here every single step of the way, and we are
Right
going to help,
beside you.
and we are going to help you get there.
Yeah, right beside you.
Absolutely. Janie, it's been so awesome having a chat with you. You spoke, you've taken us on a big ride and painted a really wonderful picture about your family. None better than that story just then about, raising some really close-knit, beautiful kids that support each other. We've seen it firsthand. But you talked a little bit about communication being a really important part of what tough means in today's world. And Benny and I are on a mission to redefine what it means to be tough. Tough as talking. Your old definition, your dad, at the start of the show, you mentioned what tough meant to you growing up. Tell us a little bit about, through everything that you've been through in your life, what does tough mean to you now?
Tough for me is relying on others. I think tough is being open, being vulnerable, communicating. Tough is saying no when you're in a tough spot. Because I'm not very good at that N word.
You're getting better, mate.
I've learned. It's taken a while. It's taken a few years, Benny. But yeah, I'm getting better at saying no. I can't do that because I need to look after myself.
Yep, putting yourself first.
Yeah, putting myself first. I think that's probably something most of us aren't very good at, is putting ourselves first.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm working really hard on that to do that. So yeah, it's a. I still think I see people that go through some really hard things, and I see people's mental toughness and mental resilience. They might cry, they might be upset, they might be whatever, but the toughness to get them through and continue to keep going, and like, to me, that's tough. At the minute, there's a lot of farmers out there that I would say are very tough.
Yep.
And they need to continue to be, and they will be. And there'll be, I reckon, a couple of beers cracked if it ever does rain.
No doubt about it.
And as long as through being tough in that way that you're just talking about, then with the farmers that are just going to keep on plugging away day by day closer to rain.
Mates, talk to your neighbours, talk to your
100%.
mates.
Add that first part in that you talked about.
Yeah.
Being open, communicating, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
say you are doing it tough.
Yeah, you smash all that together and then you really are tough.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Janie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane.
For hanging out. Thanks for driving down today. Much easier when we're in South Australia, in the home state, to catch up, because we love doing this face to face. And just appreciate your openness, your honesty, and taking us on your journey.
You're welcome. And always love catching up with you too.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, guys.
Another fantastic conversation today. As always, if anything has triggered you in any way, shape or form, or you feel like talking about something, pick up the phone, call a mate, call a professional, or if that mate doesn't answer, you can always call Lifeline on 13 11 14. We'll catch you next time on Talkin Tough.